Breaking news, the tit-for-tat trade war is heating up again. The Department of Homeland Security issuing a notice that the U.S. will move forward with a 50% tariff on all imports from India, starting in just over 8 hours at 12:01 a.m. Eastern. It does not stop there. President Trump is also threatening a 200% levy on Chinese goods coming into the U.S. if that country curbs exports of rare earth magnets. The president also vowing on Truth Social to impose, quote, substantial new tariffs and restrict chip exports for dozens of countries that do not remove digital taxes on American technology firms. Many, in fact, it's growing, right? Here are just some of the big businesses that have complained about taking a profit hit from tariffs. They include General Motors, UPS, Adidas, John Deere, Home Depot, Hershey's, more, Whirlpool. Little guys? What about them? Joining me now in a Fox Business exclusive is FUBU founder and CEO Daymond John, also famed for Shark Tank. Daymond joins us live from the warehouse of one of those smaller businesses, Once Upon a Coconut, which imports what? A lot of the product from Vietnam, right? I mean, you work with hundreds
We get a lot of our product from Vietnam.
Hundreds of companies, Daymond. What are you hearing from CEOs about the tariff environment at the moment?
You know, this is a problem. I mean, what the good part about it is initially when this happened, people started to tighten their belts. The good part about it is AI is coming around. They're starting to be able to strategically, handle their supply chain. The bad part about it is the unknown, because you can make in America, but a lot of components are made various other places. So what are CEOs starting to do? They're starting to try to find ways to sell direct to their customer, even though retail has grown in regards to real estate investors at about 6.3 this year, and retail, the ones who closed, about 5.5. You're looking at a slow growth there. But in regards to products where people want products, first of all, every day, and people don't want to necessarily go to retail, and you're dealing with tariffs, people are trying to go direct to their customer. And at the end of the day, that's probably the only strategy besides having 4 or 5 places globally to manufacture.
Well, Vietnam, for example, 20% tariffs on incoming goods to the U.S. from Vietnam, and transshipments through Vietnam, meaning they come from another country, go through Vietnam, and so maybe you don't know that it's coming from China or wherever. Those are slapped with even bigger rates. So what about Once Upon a Coconut? How are they? What are they spending, and does that hurt their cash position? Certainly.
It absolutely hurts the cash position there, but in regards to brands such as this one, we have to negotiate with our manufacturers. Will you come down a little? Will you meet us in the middle? But at the end of the day, for a brand like this, where you can give your child coconut water instead of soda, we don't want to pass that on to families, and that becomes the challenge. It's not only the coconut water, but where do you source the cans from and things of that nature? So yes, this is an ongoing challenge with us. And then sooner or later, the market absorbs it. But in another, couple of years, this is only going to hurt us at the end of the day. I do believe America needs to get paid. And I think a lot of people had a free ride. Can we meet in the middle is the challenge. But a lot of small businesses will close. This will speed up the closure of a lot of small businesses that don't know how to move towards AI, move towards selling platforms, move towards social, and move towards live selling.
Be fleet of foot. You have to be. Now, you get paid a lot to advise certain companies. I'm asking you for free to tell our viewers, because we got a lot of business people who are watching and a lot of people who own stocks in these types of businesses. What must CEOs and teams start to do to deal with the tariff environment?
CEOs always had to start talking directly to their customer, because there's only 3 ways to deal with a customer: acquire a new one, upsell a current one, or make one buy more frequently. And acquiring a new one is very hard, so you must kind of supersize everybody's fries so you can talk to them directly. But CEOs have to start going globally and talking about dealing with 15 different supply chains, because in China, the government owns most of those supply chains. So they're opening factories just as fast as they're closing them. A lot of these factories are going to push you off the line because of their manufacturing line, because somebody's going to come in and pay more, or they're going to have less tariffs in their country So these people still, end of the day, have to make a profit. So you have to diversify your portfolio, whether it is in stocks and financial instruments or it's in manufacturing. And you have to start selling and dealing with your company and your people directly. Why? If I made something for 10, I sold to the store for 20, they sold it for 40. I don't even know who bought it. Right now, if I make it for 10 and sell it to somebody for 40, I have enough of the margin in there to deal with some of these fluctuating prices.
Yeah, you can deal with some of the wiggle room, but you lose just a bit. I know no businessman or woman wants to deal with that. And then you've got a different sort of landscape emerging, especially when President Trump just said during his cabinet meeting that, yeah, he's taken a 10%, at least the U.S. government has taken a 10% stake in Intel. Now, it wasn't like Intel was going bankrupt, and Intel is a huge company, but when the government starts to do something like that, does it make you wonder, and if you were to advise CEOs, of what if the government comes knocking on the door and says, yeah, we think we should take a little bit of, even if, for example, the president rightly says, we just gave them so much money from the CHIPS Act, so we need something in return, an equity stake. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, that is a tough one. I think that is bordering on democracy and bordering on, the free market and the open market. And then once you have government as partners, whether you need partners or not, then you have, policymakers and various other things that don't move as quick entrepreneurially. This president is moving entrepreneurially, but I think that is a whole bigger issue. I really try not to go to topics that big and with big companies like that. My normal market is probably startups as well as CEOs doing about 500 million and under. And I really try to address that. And I've been doing, because I'm going to actually do something over at in Vegas at Alibaba Co-Create. And I'm doing this to bring all these people from all around the world together to see how you can manufacture globally. That one right there, it's a loaded gun, and I cannot really understand the level of government in America getting into other companies. I just can't understand that, to be very honest.
Well, and also it was around the first time around that the president, when he had his first administration, said, get out of China. So people did. They went to Vietnam, they went to Cambodia, they went to India, and now tonight, India is going to be slapped with 50% tariffs. This is exactly what Tim Cook, for example, again, a huge company versus many small ones, I'm sure, whom you deal with that deal with India. He's facing 50% tariffs. He had moved much of his operation for the iPhone, or at least said he was going to India. And now what? This is a constantly shifting earthquake under business people's feet.
There is a really big problem with it, and that's exactly why you should be making out of Taiwan at the same time and sourcing all over the place, because this is exactly what's going to happen. You have to be nimble and you have to be agile, because we don't know how these countries are going to debate and fight with each other. At the end of the day, the consumer is going to pay for it at the end of the day. An iPhone, if it increases that cost, an iPhone is going to be $1,500 to $1,700. And now think about that. I mean, that's going to be a huge investment for you. It is a big problem, and I don't know when we're going to get to when we're going to get these prices and everything locked in. And in between this time, people can't even project their business. They can't project their payroll. They can't project their manufacturing and their stream of how they're going to bring goods to market. And that becomes the big issue. And we're going to bottleneck at some point. Then there's going to be a lot of goods and a lot of jobs out there on the street while these people are trying to, navigate policy.
Interesting points. Daymond, so good to have you. I love that you're coming from one of your warehouses. That is not a fake background. That is once upon a coconut.
This is a warehouse. You know I love you. You always support me. Please don't run any more Robert Herjavec commercials right before I get on. It's my time.
Oh, you got it.
And I'll see everybody at Alibaba Co-Create in September 4th and 5th in Vegas.
Vegas.
All right.
Be good, Daymond. Great to see you.
Baby.
Thank you so much.